ओम ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, we are continuing our discussion from third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think last time we completed chapter 30, description by Lord Kapila of the adverse fruitive activities. In that chapter, we heard Rishabdev, Kapila describing the fate of a person who lives by sinful means. And he described how while living, he acquires money by sinful ways, and when he becomes old, his family members don't take care of him, they neglect him, he feels really sad, can't do anything, and ultimately he comes to the point of death. Then Yamdutas come, they snatch away the soul out of the heart, they snatch away the subtle body. And the path to hell is described. The various things which are happening in the hell was described, how a living entity suffers according to the sinful activities he has done, how his intestines are torn apart, his limbs are cut, he is thrown from the mountain peaks. Those who engage in illicit sex life, they suffer in Tamishra, under Tamishra, Raurava hell. And then Kapil Dev says, hellish condition is not just a place. Even in hell, one experiences, even in earth, one experiences hell. Different conceptions of hell were described. And that's how, after going through hellish situations, then taking birth in lower species of life, ultimately, this living entity again gets a chance to take birth in the human body. What happens to him in the human body? That will be described in the next chapter. So Kapila Dev is describing the movements of the living entities. We'll recite this famous verse. We must have heard this many, many times. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmana Deva Netrena Jantu Deho Papattaye Sriya Pravishta Udaram Pumso Reta Kanashraya.
The personality of God it said, under the supervision of Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body.
Yes. Karmana, according to the results of his work, Daiva Netrena, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, Jantu means the living entity, the soul, Deha Upapattaye, assumes a particular type of body. Striyaha Pravishta Udaram, and he is made to enter into a womb of a particular woman. Pumsoreta Kanashraya, to the particle of the semen. So this is how the continuation of the last chapter is happening here. Prabhupada also writes, in the last chapter, after suffering different kinds of hell, a man again comes to the human form of the body. Same topic is continued in these chapters. In order to give a particular type of human form to a person who has already suffered hellish life, the soul is transferred to a semen of a man who is just suitable to become his father. And Prabhupada describes that, this process is applicable, getting into the human body again or any body again. It is applicable for all the embodied beings. Everybody has to go through this. Nobody can escape this process. This process is applicable to all embodied living entities. But it is specially mentioned for the man who has transferred to Andha Tamishra hell. So after suffering hellish situations, now this living entity is transferred in a human body again. And there he is made to do all the obnoxious things like hogs and dogs. And then after suffering all those hellish conditions, again he comes to the human body. Prabhupada writes, yeah, everything is done by the supervision of Supreme Lord. Karmana Daiva Netrena. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord, everything is happening. And the Supreme Lord is always present with the individual soul. And he directs the material nature to supply a particular type of body. One cannot, take the body according to his wish. Lord appears according to his wish. Sambhavami Atma Maya. But the living entity does not take body according to his wish. He is forced by the laws of nature to accept a particular type of body. And he cannot demand, I want this type of body. Reta Kanashraya. Reta Kanashraya means he takes the shelter of a seaman and then he enters the womb of a woman and then the body develops. Prabhupada writes, there is no possibility of creating a living entity without the presence of soul. Prabhupada, whenever he would get a chance, he would describe life comes from life. Life doesn't come from dead matter. Life comes only from living beings. A living cell can only give birth to another living body. Although in this age of AI, artificial intelligence, there are super computers, super conscious machines. It seems that the machines are becoming conscious. They behave like humans, they speak, they have expressions like humans, but it is all programmed. Nobody can replace a human being, whatever it may happen. Of course, if there is some disaster, then the human beings will suffer. But ultimately, human beings, the living being is required to create anything. And in the attempt to create life, scientists are doing so many things, cloning and, artificial insemination and all those things are happening. But what they are doing? They are just creating a suitable environment in which the soul can grow. They can't create a soul because soul can never be created. Na jayate mriyate. So that is what is described. Next verse. Kalalam tveka ratrena pancharatrena budbudam
Pancharatreena Budbhutam
dashahena tu karkandu
Dasaheena tu Karkandhu
Prishyandam va tatah param.
Veshantam va tatha param. On the first night, the sperm and ovum mix, and on the fifth night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. On the 10th night, it develops into a form like a worm. And after that, it gradually turns into a lump of flesh or an egg, as the case may be.
Yes. So now Kapiladev, he is describing how the child in the womb of a mother grows. So next three verses, second, third, fourth verses describes the development of an embryo from day 1 to 6 months. Very, very wonderfully, Kapiladev is describing. And when people say, oh, scriptures are mythology, how did Bhagavatam describe all these wonderful things? How can Maitreya Muni describe what Kapil Dev is speaking? How Kapil Dev describes because they are not ordinary people. Scriptures are a Paurushaya. This is a very, very wonderful piece of information given in Bhagavatam, which can be used to refute the you know opinions of scientists and people, historians, that scriptures, they are written by somebody in the past. Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years back. How did Vyasdev know all this? Very exact information is given here. So in the first night, the sperm and ovum mixes, and then fifth night it ferments into a bubble, 10th night into a plum and a lump of flesh or egg. So lump of a flesh or egg means if there are 4 types of living beings. Prabhupada writes in the purport. In Sanskrit, they are called as Swedaja, Andaja, Udbhija, and Jarayuja. Shvedaja means that which germinates from perspiration, Sweda. There are some insects. For them, the favorable environment is sweat, like bed bugs and some more insects, Swedaja. Andaja, all the birds, they lay eggs. Then Udbhija. Udbhija means all the trees and the plants which grow from the seed. And Jarayuja, when one develops from an embryo. So all these other different ways a living entity develops in the womb of a particular mother. Prabhupada writes that. In the case of birds, it develops into an egg. It develops into an egg. In animals and human beings, lump of flesh. Masena tu shirodvabhyam.
Masena tu sirotabhyam
Bhavangradyanga vigraha.
bhavangatyam vigraha
Charmani.
nakalo masthir charmani
Chidrodbhavastribihi.
lingan chitrotra bhavastribhi.
In the course of a month, the head is formed. At the end of 2 months, the hands, feet, and other limbs take shape. At the end of 3 months, the nails, finger, toes, body hairs, bones, and skin appear, as do the organ of generation and other apertures in the body, namely the eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and hands.
Chaturbhi dhatava sapta.
चतुर्विधः सप्त
Panchvishu tridudbhavah.
पञ्चभिः
Shadbhirjarayunavitah.
डब्बिर्जरायुः
Kuksho bhramyati dakshine.
Dakshine. Within 4 months from the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely chyle, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, come into existence. At the end of the 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt. At the end of 6 months, fetus, enclosed by amnion, begins to move on the right side of the abdomen.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes a very interesting piece of information. And Prabhupada also quotes that in the purport. Right side is mentioned, it is described the embryo moves on the right side of the abdomen. So he says if there is a male fetus, it moves to the right side, and the female fetus moves to the left side. So that is some interesting thing. Matur Jagadhanna Panadhyay Edad Dhatura Sammate Sheten Mutra Vinmutrayorgarte
Shete vinmutrayo gharte
Sajantur Jantur Sambhave.
sayantur dantur sambhave.
Deriving its nutrition from the food and the drink taken by the mother, fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stool and urine, which is the breeding place of all kinds of worms.
Yeah. So this is something unique. Although the science says the amniotic fluid is all sterile, but in some disease conditions it may happen. It is very near to residence of stool and urine. That is there. The fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stool and urine. It is very near to that. And this the residence of stool and urine is the breeding place of all the worms. And in the next few verses, it will be described that this living entity suffers also because it is bitten by the worms. It may not be always, but it may be possible if there is some infection, some problems. So there are some things which are difficult to describe from Bhagavatam, but we have to understand that Bhagavatam always speaks from a context. It is not that in every case it happens. It may happen in some case. But Bhagavatam is focusing on how a living entity can suffer in the womb also. Of course, it suffers because of various things. It is a very small place and can't move. It is arched. And sometimes gets infection also. So Prabhupada quotes Markandeya Puran. It is said in Markandeya Puran that in the intestine of the mother, of the umbilical cord, which is known as Apyayani, joins the mother to the abdomen of the child. We all know that. Whatever the mother eats, it goes to the embryo also. The statement of Markandeya Puran about the child situation within the womb is exactly corroborated by modern medical science. Therefore, it is told to the mother, one should not eat too much chili, spicy, onion, and similar foods because the child's body is delicate. The child will suffer. The restrictions and precautions to be taken by the pregnant mother, as enunciated in the Smriti scriptures, are very useful. And we can understand from Vedic literature how much care is taken to beget a nice child. Again, Prabhupada writes about Garbhadhan Samskar, how the parents at the time of their union, they attract a particular type of soul according to the consciousness they have at that time. So therefore, it is so very important to maintain pure consciousness. So Prabhupada writes about that. Chakravarti Thakur writes, the male fetus is bound up with arteries and veins within the abdomen of mother. All that the women eat and drink passes into the womb. The fetus becomes nourished by this and it grows. Then he says, sometimes he is bitten by the worms. Krimi vikshata sarvangaha saukumaryat pratikshanam
Kumaraya Paridikshanam
ham apnotya ruklesha
Chamapnoti Urukleshash
pratyay shudhitairmuhu.
Pratyai Sutibhir Muhu.
Body by the hungry worms in the abdomen itself, the child suffers terrible agony because of his tenderness. He thus becomes unconscious moment after moment, and because of the terrible condition.
So child suffers terrible agony and faints also. Of course, this material world is itself miserable. But the problem is, we are so accustomed to misery that we have accepted the misery to be normal. The living entities in this world have accepted misery to be normal. People say, अरे ये तो जीवन में लगा ही रहे, ये तो दुख तो होगा ही, क्या करें, अभी सहन करना पड़ेगा. And if somebody says, oh, there is a way to escape this, अरे क्या फायदा है, यहाँ ही रहना है. And that's how people they behave. They have accepted this miserable condition as normal. So Prabhupada writes, the miserable life begins from the moment the living entity begins his contact with his material body. As soon as the soul comes in the material body, the misery begins. Ultimately, forget this experience and do not take the miseries of the birth very seriously. That's why Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanudarshanam. But if you ask in any Gita course, you ask what are the miseries, nobody will say birth because we have forgotten the miseries of birth. It's a very painful situation, but we have forgotten it. Prabhupada writes, therefore, Bhagavad Gita says one should be very alert to understand the specific difficulties of birth and death. Just like there is difficulty within the womb, at the time of death also there are many difficulties. So this definition of example of womb comes in Bhagavad Gita also. How the lust covers the living entity. Dhumena vriyate vani yatha darsho malena cha yatho ulbena vrito garbhas tatha tene damavritam. The smoke covered by fire is almost visible. Fire is almost visible. When a mirror is covered by dust, still you can see something if the dust is not so thick. Embryo covered by the womb is not seen at all. So the lust covers different living entities differently. In plant species, it is like embryo covered by the womb. Consciousness is practically not present. We cannot see it. Plant does not exhibit any emotions. In animals, it is a little more present, obvious. In human beings, it is completely present. So this child in the womb suffers, but because of the spell of material energy, one forgets everything. Samsara lagilo bhalo. As soon as one appears, again takes birth in this world, one forgets the misery. And the prayer written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhuliya tumhare samsare asiya. So that prayer will come. He is paraphrasing the verses of Bhagavatam in this chapter. What is the thinking of the child in the womb? Science can tell how the child grows in the womb. But science can never tell what child experiences in the womb. What are the thoughts of the child in the womb? That is only given by Bhagavatam. He continues. Katu tikshnoshna lavana
Katotikshosna lavana.
ruksham ladir ulbanai
Ruksham larvir ulvahe.
matri bhuktair upasprishtaha
Matrair bhuktair upasprishtha.
angothita vedanaha.
Sarvangothitah vetanah. Owing to the mother's eating bitter, pungent foodstuffs or food which is too salty or too sour, the body of the child incessantly suffers pains which are almost intolerable.
The Prabhupada writes all these situations a child suffers, it is beyond our conception. We can't understand. If a child, Prabhupada writes, if a grown-up person has to remain in that situation, it is intolerable. Can't stay for few hours also. You know, if some of you have been to this Vaishno Devi, before Vaishno Devi, there is a place, Ardha Kumari. And in that place, everybody has to pass through a tunnel. Any of you have been there? वैष्णो देवी और उसके पहले वो जो अर्थ कुमारी है वहां पे वो एक टनल है उसके पहले and it is a custom that everybody has to go through that tunnel and it is a narrow tunnel and stones come in between and it is very scary and if somebody is really little fat they become very fearful फंस गए अंदर तो बाहर कैसे निकलेंगे but interestingly everybody comes out. So that place is made so that it is there to tell us how it looks, what it feels to be in the womb of the mother. It is so very scary and difficult. But because the child, his consciousness is not so much developed, so he survives. Otherwise, nobody can survive. He will die. Prabhupada writes. That is the benediction of Maya. That his consciousness is not so much developed, that's why he survives. So what is the benediction? Who endows the suffering body with the qualifications for tolerating such terrible tortures. The ability to tolerate is also given by material energy. Otherwise, it is impossible. Ulbena samritastasmin antarascha bahirapritah
बहिरात्पृतः
Namaste krutva shirakukshau
आस्ते कृत्वा शिरकुक्षौ
Bhugna prestha shirodharah
भुग्नप्रेष्ठा शिरोधरः.
Placed within the amnion and covered outside by the intestines, the child remains lying on one side of the abdomen, his head turned downwards, his belly and his back and neck arched like a bow.
Yeah, so it is a scary situation, very difficult. Prabhupada writes, if a grown-up man is put in such situation, he'll not survive even for a few seconds. Unfortunately, we forget all these sufferings and try to live happy in this life, try to be happy. So that is the unfortunate situation of this material civilization. So much suffering in the womb has already happened, but because we have forgotten, and when scriptures tell us that you suffered a lot, oh, kya farak padta hai, I didn't remember that. So that is the wheel of Maya, Maya Javanika Chanda. The wheel of Maya is covering our consciousness. Realize that this world is not a good place to stay. The suffering in this world. And he continues what happens later. Akalpa swanga cheshtaya shakunta iva panjare
Shakunta iva panjare
tatra smriti daivat
tatra labdha smrite devat
janma shatodbhavam
karma janma shatodbhavam
smaran dirgam anushwasam
smarandimanushwasam
sharma kim nama vindate.
sharma kim nama vindate. The child thus remains just like a bird in a cage, without freedom of movement. At that time, if the child is fortunate, he can remember all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition?
So this living entity, he is not able to move. Akalpa swanga cheshta, he is trying to move, can't move. Like a bird in a cage, he's just trapped there. And if he is fortunate enough, who is that fortunate being who remembers his 100 births? Not everyone remembers. Srimad Thakur writes. Under the influence of previous karma, he remembers his actions in such a way to be sighing for a long time. In one of the purports, Chakravarti Thakur writes that only a devotee remembers. A person who has been a devotee in the past life, he remembers his 100 lives. Not everyone remembers. So this is the mercy of the Lord, that the Lord makes that devotee remember, oh, you have suffered so much. Now, please don't give up this process. Now, please make your life successful. Just like the story of Bharat Maharaj, we hear, he became attached to a deer and he became deer. Although we know that the human beings will never fall into the lower species of life. Not to speak of devotee like Bharat Maharaj, how can he fall down and become a deer? So it is an example shown, it is an exception, it is not a rule. A devotee never ever glides down to the lower species of life. But this particular story of Bharat Maharaj was shown to tell us that just see, even in the body of a deer, one remembers the last lives, one remembers the devotional service. The same situation is with Gajendra. Gajendra, in the body of elephant, he remembered. How he remembered all the prayers, how he spoke all those prayers. The word used there is Prak Janma Anusikshitam. He had learned all those prayers in the past life as King Indradyumna. Same is the case of Chitraketu Maharaj. Even he became demon. He remembered all his past life. Prabhupada writes, after birth, the child may forget the difficulties of his past lives. But when we are grown up, we can at least understand the tortures undergone at birth by reading scriptures. Although we may have forgotten it, but we should know there was too much of the torture. If we do not believe in scriptures, that is a different question. But if we have faith in the authority of such descriptions, then we must prepare for our freedom in the next life. So, spiritual life is the life of faith. If you are not faithful, then we'll not go ahead in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada writes, if somebody gets a human body, it is a very efficient boat. As 11th Canto describes, Nirdehamadhyam Sulabham Sudurlabham Klabham Sukalpam Guru Karnadharam Mayanupulena Nabhasvateritam Puman Bhavabdim Nataren Sa Atmaha. This human body, although we have achieved it so very easily without any endeavor, but it is so very rare. Durlabham, Sudurlabham. Very, very rare. It is a very suitable boat to cross this ocean of material existence, Bhavasagar. And in that, there is an expert captain, Guru Karnadhar. Guru is the captain, Karnadhar. Another meaning of this word, Karnadhar, means one who holds the ear and says, do this, come this way. That is a Guru. And Mayanupulena Nabhasvateritam. There are favorable winds also. What are the favorable winds? The scriptures. The injunctions of the scriptures are the favorable winds. And if we don't use all this wonderful facility, then Atmaha, he is a killer of the soul. So Prabhupada is paraphrasing this verse here. And now, this child, although he is suffering, he remembers his last 100 births, no peace in the mind. And as he's going through all this pain, the 10th month arrives. Arabhya Saptaman Masan
Arabhya Saptamanabla
Bodho Vipitaha
Yabdho Bodhapi Vipitaha
Naikatraste Sutivatai
Naikatraste Sutivatais
Vishthabhur Ivasodaraha.
Vishtavur Eva Sodaraha. Thus ended with the development of the consciousness from the 7th month after his conception. The child is tossed downwards by the airs that press the embryo during the weeks preceding delivery. Like the worm born of the same fuzzy abdominal cavity, he cannot remain in one place.
So Sodaraha, Saudar, the worms which are there in the abdominal cavity, they are very close to the womb of the child, the womb of the mother. So they are called as Sodara. They are residing in the same place, the worms and the embryo. So now from the 7th month, the consciousness starts developing, Labdha Bodha, and he starts moving more. But as he is moving, the delivery time comes and he is pressed by the airs of, abdomen, which pushes the embryo down. Prabhupada describes Sodara, born of the same mother. Child is born from the womb, and the worms are also born of fermentation within the womb. So they are Sodara, they are brothers. And then Prabhupada writes, we are very anxious to establish universal brotherhood among human beings, but we should take into consideration that even worms are our brothers. What to speak of other living entities? So universal brotherhood means we should understand that every living entity is our brother. We are born of the same father, Sodara. Therefore, we should concern about all living entities. Now, this devotee embryo, he starts offering prayers. In that difficult situation, he prays with his folded hands. Nathamana rishir bhitaha
Nathamana Chirvitaha
Vadre kritanjalihi
Bhaktavadre Kritanjalihi
Suvita tam viklavaya
Vivitatam Vikulavya
Avaya
Yeno dare pitaha.
Acharya Dare
Vitaha.
A living entity tied to condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition.
So now this living entity, Chakravarti Thakur writes in this purport about who is this child who remembers his past births. He says, he asks for blessings. What blessings? I should get the mercy of the Lord. And he says, the person who should worship the Lord should pray in the womb. That means other persons who do not worship the Lord would not pray in the womb. So only a devotee embryo would pray. पिछले जन्म में devotee है तभी वो pray करेगा. Not everybody will pray. Thus, jivas who do not praise the Lord will be described in this scripture later and have also previously been described. So here, although the last chapter described the activities of a sinful living entity, but in this chapter, Kapiladev, starts describing another phenomenon, how a devotee child prays. Because this is sinful. Last chapter to sinful wala tha. So this chapter, Kapiladev adds an additional thing, the prayers of a jiva, devotee jiva. Therefore, the prayers of the jiva in the womb mentioned here do not indicate that every jiva bound up would pray in this manner. Since that would contradict the statement. Kya statement hai? Those who worship Vishnu once without material desires are not subject to bondage and no longer take birth. So a devotee, not everybody will pray. Only a devotee will pray like that. And then another famous verse from Ramayana, Lord Ram is telling, when vision comes to surrender, everybody is telling, oh my Lord, please don't accept him. He is a demon. He has left his brother. How can we believe and put faith in this demon? Lord Ram says, what to speak of this vision? Sugrivo va Ravano, Yadi va Ravana Swayam. Even if Ravana himself comes, I will give him shelter. Why? Sakriteva prapannoya tavasmiti chayachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. Because I have taken a vow of giving fearlessness. So only a devotee child prays. Not everyone prays like this. So Prabhupada writes, he prays with folded hands, Kritanjali. हाथ जोड़ के बेचारा प्रार्थना करता है. It is said that when a woman is having labor pains, she promises that she will never again become pregnant and suffer from such severely painful condition. Prabhupada would tell this many times. A lady who is going through labor pains, she shouts, cries, says, Dubara nahi. Not again, I will never go through this pain. But as soon as the child is born, she forgets all the pain and again becomes pregnant. Again she cries, again she forgets. So that's how living entity is. Although one suffers intolerable suffering, as soon as happiness comes, he thinks, not so bad, itna bhi bura nahi hai, chalega, forgets the pain. Prabhupada writes, when one is undergoing some surgical operation, he promises that he will never act in a way as to become diseased and have to undergo medical surgery. Or when one falls into danger, he promises that he will never make this mistake. Similarly, a living entity prays that he will never again commit sinful activities. But as soon as he is out of the womb, he forgets everything. सब भूल जाता है. That is the thick covering of material natures. Maya Devi is so very powerful. She has a very, very powerful Shakti that is called as Avaranatmika. Makes one forget all the sufferings. And the living entity thinks, oh, not so bad. चलेगा, इतना भी बुरा नहीं है, ये भी चला जाएगा. So that's how the living entity starts praying now. And now from 12th verse to 12th verse to 21st verse, the prayers of a devotee jiva within the womb is described. Jantu vacha
Canto vacha
tasyopasannamavitum jagadichayata
tasyapasanmanavitum jagadichayat
नानातनोर्भुवि चलच्चरणारविन्दम्
नानातनर्भुविचलरचरणारविन्दम्
सोऽहं व्रजामि शरणं ह्यकुतो भयं मे
सोऽहं व्रजामि शरणं कुतं भयं मे
धेनेदृशी गतिरदर्श सतोऽनुरूपा
हे नेक्षि गतिदरस्तरोनुरूपाः. The human soul says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities.
Yes. So this बेचारा डिवोटी जीवा क्या बोल रहा है वो? तस्य उपसन्नम अवितुम जगदिच्छयात, to protect those who are in this world who have approached him. You know what Lord does? He's telling the Lord, he's reminding the Lord, आप क्या क्या करते हैं, आप मुझे भी बचाइए. This is the theme of the prayers. He says, Tasya upasannam avitum jagadichayata. So the Supreme Lord, anyone who approaches him for protection, what he does? Nana tano bhuvi. The Lord accepts many avatars. And chalat, he moves around. His lotus feet moves around. In so many different forms he has appeared to protect those who take shelter of that Lord. The Lord appears to give protection. And to give protection, he is moving everywhere. Soham Brajami Sharanam. I also take shelter of that same Lord. Akuto Bhayam me. I take shelter of him only because he can give relief from my fear. And therefore, although I am asata, I am sinful, because of my sinful activities, yene drishi gatir, देखो क्या गति मिल गई, I am now in this room. But please show mercy, O my Lord. Without your mercy, I cannot come out of this situation. Please help me. So this is the prayer a Jiva is helplessly offering. You travel everywhere, you appear everywhere, and you give shelter to those who surrender unto you. I am taking your shelter, O my Lord. Please take me out of this miserable condition. Prabhupada focuses on this word, Chalat Charanarvindam. The Lord actually walks and travels around upon the surface of the earth. Prabhupada then gives the example of Lord Ramchandra. He walked. He actually walked. Krishna actually walked. It is described in the first canto that the description between the bull and the earth, Dharma and the Mother Earth, bull and the cow. There, Mother Earth, she's offering her prayers. How can I bear separation from that Supreme Lord who would always give pleasure, who would control, who would even keep the temperamental queens like Satyabhama under his control? And that Supreme Lord, he walked all over my surface. And when he was there, all the trees, they are like um, the roam on my body. They were standing on end. Stavasahet viraham purushottamasya premavalokaruchira smitaval jalpai shairyam samanamaran madhumaninam romotsavam mamayadangrivitankitāya. So Lord actually walks, and he has made this earth beautiful by his lotus footprints. All the Dwarkavasis, they're also, Mathuravasis are also glorifying Vrindavan. You know why Vrindavan is glorified? Because Krishna has walked on Vrindavan without footwears also. He would wear footwears in other places, but in Vrindavan he never wore any footwears. Vrindavanam sakhi bhuvo vitanoti kirtim yaddevaki sutta padambujalabda lakshmi Govinda Venumanumattanayurvityam Rekshadrisanvabaratanya Samasta Sattvam. Vrindavan has increased the glory of Mother Earth. Why? What is so interesting about Vrindavan? Araya Devaki Sutta Patambuja Labda Lakshmi. Lakshmi Devi is anchoring for the lotus feet of Supreme Lord, and he is walking over Vrindavan without any footwear. He is making everything auspicious. That's how Lord appears. That's why Lord appears in this world, to make everything auspicious. It is described, Prabhupada writes. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yadadahi Dharmasya Glani Bhavati Bharata. And Lord appears by his own will. Nobody forces the Lord. Nobody can force the Lord. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. He appears by his own will. Ichhaya. By his own will he appears. And he says, Prabhupada writes, Ichhaya means he does not assume any form. His form is eternal. It is not that, as the Mayavadis say, oh, absolute truth is ultimately impersonal. When that Supreme Lord, absolute truth, gets covered by the mode of goodness, he becomes avatar. That is Mayavad. So Prabhupada writes, no, it is not like that. He does not assume any form. His form is eternal and he just descends. Avatarati iti avatara. Avatar means one who descends. All the forms of the Lord, all the avatars of the Lord are there. He just appears in this form. Okay, next verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes something. He says, Sridhar Swami says that walking on earth is in reference to Krishna's appearance on earth. According to Jiva Goswami, Kapila Dev says this in expectation of Krishna's appearance in the future. So Kapila Dev is expecting, oh, Krishna will appear. So the child in the womb will pray to Krishna also. Oh my Lord, please save me. Next verse. Yastatra baddha iva karma avritatma.
यस्तप्रबद्ध इव कर्मभिरावृतात्मा
Bhutendriyashayamyim avalambya mayam.
भूतेन्द्रियाशयमवियमलभ्य मायाम्
Aste vishuddhamavikaramakhandabodham.
Astre
आस्ते
Vishuddhamakaramabodham
विशुद्धमविकारमबोध
Atapyamana hridaye vasitam namami.
आतप्यमानये वसितं नमामि
I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities, I am lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, but he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer my respectful obeisances.
So this child in the womb continue his prayers. The child, this living entity, remembers with astonishment the merciful and amazing pastimes of the Lord. How the Lord remains in every living entity. He remains in the body of every suffering jiva. The jiva is remembering this. How Lord is so very merciful. Yastu atra baddha iva karmabhir avritatma. He appears to be a soul covered by a material body, bound by karma. He appears to be like that. Lord, he appears in so many avatars and he performs so many pastimes. It appears that, oh, he's also ordinary human being, ordinary living entity, appearing because of his karmic reactions. Bhutendriya shaymayim avalambya maya. It seems that he takes support of his own material energy. He takes help of a material mind, material senses. It seems like that. But Aste vishuddhamavikaramakanda bodham. But the Lord always remains pure. Lord is unchanging, avikaram, vishuddham, he is always pure, akhanda bodham, he has indestructible knowledge. So, what I am doing now? Atapyamana hridaye, my heart is really distressed. In that distressed heart, I am remembering that Supreme Lord. I am offering respects to that Supreme Personality who appears in so many different forms. So Prabhupada writes a very important line here. He says, the Lord appears in a heart which is full of repentance. He writes here. He can be realized only by a soul who is repentant. This is a very, very important word, repentant heart. Before that, Prabhupada writes how the soul and super soul are there in the same body, like birds on a tree. Shvetashvatar Upanishad very nicely describes this. Dvau Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samana Vriksho Purusho Nimagnau. Prabhupada quotes that verse. And the Lord is realized only by a person, individual who is repentant. Not everyone can realize the Supreme Lord. Only that person who is repentant can realize. There is a verse in the 11th canto where Lord Krishna, he is telling to Uddhava, he is describing the condition of a sadhaka. Jata shraddho matkathasu nirvinna sarva karmasu ved dukkhatmakan kaman parityagvapyanishwarah tato bhajet mam prita shraddhalu dृढ़ निश्चयः प्रशमानश्च तान् कामान् दुःखोदर्कां च गर्हयन्. Garhayan means he repents. So this verse says, my devotee, his faith has risen in my pastimes. जात जन्म हो गया उसका, क्या श्रद्धा का जन्म हो गया, किसमें? मत कथा, in my pastimes. Nirvinna sarva karmasu, he knows. He has given up all the sense gratification because he knows Ved dukh atmakan kaman. He knows sense gratification will give misery. But बेचारा छोड़ नहीं पाता है फिर भी. परित्यागोप्यनीश्वर. Still he engages in sense gratification. I know this is wrong, but still, एक बार. Then what that devotee does, what that devotee should do, he says, my devotee should continue worshipping me with a happy heart. This is an injunction. Lord is telling, Tato bhajet mam prita. Still he should worship me with a happy heart. A devotee should not go into the guilty consciousness so much and go into the depression and inferiority complex. अरे मैं इतना पापी हूँ, पतित हूँ, क्या होगा मेरा, फालतू है, मेरे लिए कुछ नहीं होगा. Happy heart. One should be happy. One should practice bhakti with a happy heart. He says, Tato bhajet mam prita. प्रेम से भक्ति करना चाहिए उसको फिर भी. Shraddhalu, dृढ़ निश्चय, with faith, with determination, and one very important thing this person should do, dukkha udarakam sha garhayan. Although he engages in sinful activities, which are the sources of misery, and after engaging in those activities, he repents. So this repentance is very, very important. The Lord can be realized only by a repentant soul. The individual becomes repentant that he forgot his constitutional position and he wanted to become one with the Lord, lord it over the material nature. Then he is baffled and then now he is repentant. It is not so easy to come to this conclusion that I don't want to lord it over. The Lord is never affected by material coverings. We get affected by material coverings. Etadishanam ishasya prapritisthophi tadgunai na yujyate sadatmasthai yatha buddhi tadashraya. The Lord never gets covered, although he is in this material world, he never gets covered. It appears that he is covered, but he is not. He is never covered by material nature. And a living entity trying to lord it over the material nature, ultimately, when he becomes a devotee, realizes, I wasted my time. I was envious of the Lord. I am still envious of the Lord. He repents. And Prabhupada writes that this realization may come after many, many lifetimes. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. It is not an easy realization. It may come after many, many lifetimes. So that is how an individual soul who is a servant of the Lord, ultimately surrenders. And when an individual soul surrenders to the Lord, then he becomes Mahatma. Prabhupada would always tell Mahatma is not a political title given to someone. No. Mahatmanastu Maham Partha Daivim Prakritimashritaha. There's a wonderful statement Chaitanya Charan Prabhu makes. When Anu Atma surrenders to Vibhu Atma, then he becomes Mahatma. So unless one surrenders to Vibhu, to the Supreme Lord, he will never become Mahatma. Chakravarti Thakur writes, Jiva remembers with astonishment the merciful, amazing pastimes of the Lord, how he is in the body of the sinful jivas. Lord is so very merciful that he is staying in the body of a worm in the stool also. Why he does like that? We do not know if he does this to protect us or to perform his own pastimes. But I offer respects to him. It is fitting that I am here in the womb, bound by karma, experiencing the result of my sinful acts. But why does he stay as a Mantaryami in this stinking hell? He exists there as if bound by karma, though he is not. That is the compassion of the Lord. Why the Lord has to stay in a filthy place like our heart, full of all the nasty things. Oh, municipality का कचरे वाला डब्बा रहता है, we can't even, stand passing through that. Lord is staying in the heart, which is full of dirty things. Why is he doing like that? Because he is the mother and father of everyone. He doesn't care that, oh, it's so filthy. He is waiting when this child will again turn towards me. That's the mercy of the Lord. Chakravarti Thakur writes, because he wanders around Vrindavan with his lotus feet, it appears that he is an Atma covered by the material body like me. But he is not covered. How does he do this? He utilizes his own Shakti of Maya, composed of material elements, senses, and the mind. Well, if that is so, then because of using material energy, he would be contaminated then. Somebody may say, he is using material energy, that means he has become contaminated. He says, no, he is avikaram, he is akhandabodham, he is vishuddham. He never gets affected. So somebody may question, how are you understanding all these things? Because you are already contaminated, you are already baddha. How can you understand all these things? The Jiva says, it is perceived in my completely distressed heart. He is distressed, thinking, how can knowledge give by him, situated in my heart, knowledge given by him, give by him. How can knowledge given by him, situated in my heart, even to a person like me, be destroyed? Gyan kaise kho diya maine? He is lamenting. No, I had this knowledge, but I lost this knowledge. He is lamenting. That's how the child in the womb keeps lamenting for his fallen condition. Kaise hoga aisa? He continues. The amazed Jiva speaks. If he is like this, how can he stay in this body? He says, you are superior to both Prakriti and all the Purusha avatars. You are superior to all of them, O my Lord. Yah panchabhut rachite rahita sharire.
यः पञ्चभूतरचिते रहिता शरीरे
शरीरे
Channo yathendriya gunartha chidatmakoham.
अन्नो
तन्नो
यतेन्द्रिया
यतेन्द्रिय
गुणार्थचिदात्मकोऽहम्
हीना
गुणार्थचिदात्मकोऽहम्
विकुण्ठमहिमानं ऋषिं तमेनं
हीना
हीना
विकुण्ठमहिमानं
महिमानमृषिं तमेन
वन्दे परमप्रकृतिपुरुषयो पुमांसम्
वन्दे परम
वन्दे परं
पुरुषयो
प्रकृतिपुरुषयो पुंसाम्
and
I am
separate
separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body, which is made of five elements, and therefore my qualities and senses are being misused. Although I am essentially spiritual, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to material nature and the living entity, because He is devoid of such a material body, and because He is always glorious in His spiritual quality. I offer my obeisances unto Him. Hare
So he is amazed. How can he stay in this body? He's such a great Supreme Lord. He is a source of all the Purusha avatars. He is a source of Prakriti. He is superior to both of them.
Krishna.
He's praying to Krishna.
Whole time. Home.
He says, Ya Panchabhut Rachite Rahita Sharire. I am separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body. My body is made of five senses. I am separated from that Supreme Lord. And therefore, I know my, although I am completely spiritual, Chidatmako Aham, I am Chidatmaka, I am completely spiritual. This verse says, Chidatmaka. Although I am Chidatmaka, I am completely spiritual, but my senses, my indriyas, and my qualities, they are misused. Now I am absorbed in the material things, although I am spiritual. My senses are misused. But Tena, he, that Supreme Lord, Tena avikunta mahimanam. He is devoid of material qualities. Avikunta mahimanam. He is devoid of material qualities. He is devoid of material body, and he is always glorious. Rishim, Mahimanam, Rishim Tamenam. He is always glorious. I offer my respects to that Supreme Lord who is transcendental to Parama Prakriti Purushayoha, who is superior to material nature and who is superior to Purushayoha. Purushayoha means to Purusha avatars also. Srila Prabhupada writes, who is superior to living entities, who is transcendental to material nature and living entities. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, who is superior to Prakriti and Purusha avatars also. So that's how he is describing the difference between the Lord and the living entities. Living entities are prone to be subjected to material nature. Supreme Lord never gets affected. He's always transcendental. That's the question Arjuna asked in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita when Krishna told, I gave this knowledge to Sun God in the beginning of the creation. Arjuna says, Arey, aisa kaise ho sakta hai? You are me of same age. You and me are of same age. Aparam bhavato janma param janma vyasvata katham etad vijaniyam tamado proktavaniti. How can I understand that you spoke this to Sun God? Krishna says, Arey, both you and me have taken birth many times. You remember, you have forgotten everything. I remember everything. बहुनी में व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहम वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं विद्ध परन्तप. How is it that? Because I am Aja. Arjuna will say, I am also Aja. Avyayatma, I am also Avyayatma. But the third quality differentiates. Bhutanam Ishvara. But Jivas are not Bhutanam Ishvara. Lord is Bhutanam Ishvara. Lord that never gets affected. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. A living entity gets affected. Living entity appears because of his karma. Supreme Lord doesn't appear because of his karma. Prabhupada writes, the difference is described here. Lord is always transcendental. And when the living entity is put in material nature, his senses are polluted. Lord never gets polluted or contaminated. He is never subjected to the influence of material nature. And since living entity is minute, he is subjected to material nature. Lord is Vidhu, he is infinite. He never gets affected. And then Prabhupada says, because we are contaminated, the process of purifying the contamination is devotional service. Only by that process one is purified. As Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. By bhakti one can know him. And by bhakti one can transcend the modes also. Mam chayo avibhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunana samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Only by the practice of devotional service, one can transcend the modes of nature. Because ultimately, living entity, the soul is free of any contamination. The soul never gets contaminated. Bhagavad Gita Krishna gives an example. Just like the sky never mixes with the air, the sun never gets affected by anything of this world. Similarly, the soul never gets affected. But the soul starts misidentifying with the things of the world. That's why the soul suffers. Ultimately, the soul is asango ayam purushaha, Prabhupada writes. Asango hi ayam purusha. The living entity is liberated. His material contamination is temporary. Next verse. So this living entity, he continues. After hearing all these wonderful prayers, somebody may ask that living entity, Baba, how did you attain this bhakti at all? How are you offering such beautiful prayers of devotion? कैसे मिल गया आपको ये? He says in 15th verse, this is the mercy of the great souls. यन्माययोरुगुणकर्म निबन्धनेऽस्मिन् सांसारिके पतिचरं तदभिश्रमेण
Ansarike
नष्ट स्मृति पुनरयं प्रवृणीत लोकम्
Nashta Smriti
युक्त्या कया महदनुग्रहमन्तरि
Nitya Kaya
I'll just come in few seconds. Somebody can read the translation.
Human soul further prays. The living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This conditioned life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship to the Supreme Person of Godhead. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord?
Okay. So he's saying, let's start. So this living entity, this Jiva, the devotee Jiva, he is praying. Yan Maya Yoru. This living entity, I am put under the influence of this material nature, which is made up of guna, karma. the material nature which is made up of guna and karma, I am bound by that. Nibandhane asmin. And because of I am entangled in this, what is happening? Samsarike. I am now suffering in this cycle of birth and death. Samsara. Samsara means the cycle of birth and death. Samsarike pati charams. I am suffering. Tad abhishramena. And the hard struggle for existence continues. Because I am now bound in this modes. I am suffering this cycle of birth and death. और क्या हो गया है? Nashta smriti. I lost my remembrance. All this is because I lost my relationship with the Supreme Lord. कृष्ण भूलिया जी वो भोगवांचा करे निकटस्थ माया तारे झपटिया घरे. As soon as one forgets Krishna, he is caught by Maya. झपटिया धरे. Krishna bahirmukh. When one turns his face away from Krishna, gets under the clutches of Maya. Nashta smriti punarayam pravrinit lokam. Punarayam pravrinit, because I forgot Krishna, I have come in this material world. But yuktaya kaya mahadanugraham. Without the mercy of the Lord and the mercy of the devotees of the Lord, how can one get devotional service? It is not possible. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that. Prabhupada writes, Mahadanugraha means mercy of the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, Mahadanugraha means mercy of the devotee of the Lord. How did you attain this bhakti? He says, the cause of attaining bhakti is the mercy of the great souls. Only by the mercy of these great devotees, my bhakti has appeared in my heart. There is no other means. My worship of Krishna has appeared only by the mercy of some Krishna devotee guru I had in a previous life. Koi to Krishna devotee guru the mere who gave me devotion. Yes, I have a question.
That mercy is that causeless mercy. We say causeless. The particular soul. Why that particular soul get connected to that particular Vaishnava or devotee? Because we are received now. We have seen that we are distributing books. So many people trying to attract them, but neither they get attracted to this, or why the mercy is they are bereft of mercy, and why particular soul is getting that mercy. Is any reason behind that? Why we have received, and we thought that why he is not able to receive, despite of we praying.
At what point of time a living entity will start practicing devotion? That is not so clear. That Sukriti, that Agyat Sukriti, when it becomes mature, then one becomes attracted to Krishna Bhakti. When will that happen? That only Krishna can decide. Just like now the book distribution month is going on. There are 10 people, 10 devotees standing on the Dadar bridge, showing books. And a person comes and meets the first book distributor. He hears and he says, no, nahi chahiye. Second wala bhi bolta hai usko. Third wala bhi bolta hai. By the time he reaches the 10th devotee, he has acquired sufficient pious credits. And he says, theek hai, de do chalo. So it is not that all the others, they failed. They contributed to the, this person buying the book. So many devotees, they may have helped us, they may have shown mercy. And then lastly, now in this life, we have taken the process. We accepted the process.
It means I am asking that particular soul, why is get attracted to that particular devotee? What is Agya Sukriti? But why only he is receiving Agya Sukriti? Means a conditioned soul who is coming in contact with the Vaishnava, So usually, usually you preach to many people, but some
You know,
may.
in yeah. In Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes a wonderful analysis. What is the cause of bhakti? So somebody may say piety is the cause of bhakti. He says if piety is the cause of bhakti, then bhakti becomes dependent on piety. ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता. Then bhakti depends on the mercy of the Lord. You say, well, if bhakti depends on mercy of the Lord, then why Lord is not showing mercy to everyone? That means Lord is partial. No, Lord is not partial. तो फिर क्या है? Then he says, maybe bhakti is dependent on the devotees. Devotee has bhakti in his heart, and that devotee has the right to give bhakti to whoever he wants. And Krishna, he has given the whole and sole proprietorship of distributing bhakti to his devotees. And because a devotee has to be on the Madhyam Adhikari level to preach. Because Uttam Adhikari, he sees everyone as devotee only. Soul ऐसा पात्मा ही है, क्या इनको प्रचार करना है? To preach, Uttam Adhikari comes to the level of Madhyam Adhikari. And Madhyam Adhikari discriminates. ईश्वरे तदधीनेषु बालिशेषु द्विषत्सु च प्रेम मैत्री कृपा उपेक्षा यह करोति सो मध्यम. तो मध्यम तो डिस्क्रिमिनेट करता है. वो देखता है ये तो एनवियस है, इसको नहीं बताऊंगा. चलो ये तो डिवोटी है, इसके साथ फ्रेंड, ये बेचारा इनोसेंट है, इसको बता सकते हैं. So it is the responsibility of a devotee to give devotion to others. If we are not endeavoring, the people will not get devotion. Of course, we cannot say, चलो मैं तो devotee हूँ, मैं devotion दे सकता हूँ. No, but it is Amar Agya Guru Vaya Tare Desh. We are executing the instructions of Mahaprabhu. So it is not that why one person took devotion, other person didn't, because devotees didn't endeavor much. It is not for that person. It is the responsibility of the devotee to give devotion. Bhaktya sanjayate bhakti. Nobody else can give devotion. In the second canto, third chapter, there is a description of various demigod worshippers. ये करेंगे तो ये मिलता है, इनकी पूजा करेंगे तो ये मिलता है. And after describing all this, it is described that Parikshit Maharaj may have this doubt. Well, if somebody is a demigod worshipper, at what stage this demigod worshipper will become devotee of Krishna? ऐसा अचानक हो जाएगा क्या अपने आप? Shukdev says नहीं होता ऐसा. This verse tells this. एतावानेव यजताम इह निश्रेयसोदयः भगवती अचलो भावो यद भागवत संगतः. Only by Bhagavata Sangatah. Bas. Nothing else. Only when one comes in association of devotee and devotee gives devotion, तब जाके वो भक्त बनता है. बाकी कुछ भी कर लो नहीं बनेगा वो devotee. So it is a responsibility of each and every devotee to preach. नहीं तो नहीं मिलेगा, अपने आप नहीं बनेंगे लोग devotee. Okay.
Thank you.
That is the understanding. So we were on 15th verse, right?
16.
Okay, so Prabhupada writes, Mayavadi philosophers say that simply by cultivation of knowledge, by speculation, one can be liberated. You know, they say like that, Gyan Arjun Karo and you will be liberated. But here it is said that one is liberated not by knowledge, but by the mercy of the Lord. Mahad Anugraha. Only by the mercy of the Lord one gets liberated, because ultimately even Jnani achieves liberation by adding bhakti in that. Without bhakti, none of the other processes work. Bhakti is the active ingredient. Now I have asked this question many times. अब तक तो सबको याद हो गया होगा. What is the example given? If Gyan is there and Bhakti is not there, it is waste. कुछ नहीं होगा. याद है किसी को? अरे
And is there any waste?
Sorry, Prabhuji, couldn't heard your question.
Jnani is there, but bhakti is not there. It's waste, na?
हाँ, तो an example is given. It will not give any result. It is a waste of time and energy. क्या example देते हैं? It is like beating the empty husks of rice. कितने बार बताएंगे? स्थूल तुषावघात के नाम. You know. So therefore, if bhakti is not there, one will not get the result. Without mercy of the Lord, one cannot understand him. Athapi te deva padambujadvaya prasadaleshanugृहीते vahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno na chanyaikopi chiram vichinvan. Unless one gets a drop of mercy of the Lord, prasad lesh. Lesh means a drop. नहीं समझ सकते भगवान. जानाति तत्वम भगवान महिम्नो. Bhagavan Tattva, if you want to understand, only one way, mercy of the Lord. Nachanya ekopi chiram vichinvan, otherwise you may keep on endeavoring for many, many lifetimes, you will not achieve success. It is said here and that our memory is lost because we are now covered by his material energy. Arguments may be put forward as to why we have been put in the influence of material energy by the will of the Lord. Because we wanted it. We wanted to forget Krishna. So Krishna has made us forget him. Matta smriti gyan apohanam cha. Krishna is reciprocal. He is not partial. If we want to remember Krishna, he'll make us remember him. If we want to forget Krishna, he'll make us forget. So when we are tempted by sense gratification, and if we can't remember Krishna, that means we have to understand, still in the heart of our hearts, still there is a non-devotee sitting. Still we are far away because we have not chosen Krishna still. Our mind is still a non-devotee. Because Krishna, if we want to remember him, he will make us remember. But we are not able to remember him because we don't want to remember him. Our mind is still not a devotee. Prabhupada writes, Maya is so strong and it is difficult to surmount. Mama Maya Duratyaya. But one surrenders, can cross over, can surpass the effects of material energy. So Lord is really working hard to save us. He is coming in every species. Every avatar is taking only to attract the fallen conditioned souls. That's all. Yeah, yes, bro.
Puji, at what stage we will be, like our mind become our friend? At what stage of our devotion life? Because we heard that surrender. So surrender maybe have levels of surrender. Initially, we may not have full surrender. So it is like that only fully surrender, then only we are away from the troubles of Maya, or it is still the Anartha Nivritti stage or Bhava, Nishta. What stage we can overcome this whimsical mind?
What stage we will overcome? So when it will happen, that only Krishna knows. When we will overcome the effects of Maya. भगवत गीता में तो बहुत एकदम क्लियरली बोल दिए हैं कब तक स्ट्रगल करना है. Anyone remembers? भगवत गीता में क्लियरली कृष्णा से शक्नोति है वह शोरूम प्राक शरीर विमोक्षणात् काम क्रोधोद्भवम वेगम संयुक्त सुखी नरः. अरे मरते दम तक सब स्ट्रगल चलेगा. So we should not have some unnecessary expectations. If it happens, great. You know the story of Shubhak Maharaj. He goes to Prabhupada and says, Prabhupada, when will this lust go from heart anytime? Prabhupada said no. तो बेचारे एकदम दुखी हो गए. दोबारा पूछे, Prabhupada, will there a time be when I'll be free from lust? Prabhupada said no. अरे बाप रे. After 6 months again, he asked. Same question. Prabhupada said, Govinda Icha. If Krishna desires, it will happen. When the mind will become friend, when will I give up all these lusty desires? That nobody can tell. And we should not be so much concerned about that. We should be concerned about serving Krishna more. If we are focusing on the results more, then we become a Sakam Bhaktana. I want the results of my bhakti. I want my mind to become controlled. It will become controlled. But if we are focusing on that only, मेरे अनर्थ जान ही रहे हैं कब जाएंगे कब जाएंगे कब जाएंगे, still I am getting distracted. Many times our prayers are full of what wrong things are happening in our life. We focus on our anarthas more. Oh, I am so lusty, so angry, so greedy, so envious, so proud. Focus on serving him more. And these anarthas will go automatically in due course of time. We have to be careful, but we should not be obsessed with it. That is very important. So a devotee, he is focused on serving. Salupya sarishti samipya sarupya ekatvam apyuta diyamanam nagrihananti vinamat sevanam jana. Seva nahi hai na, devotee doesn't want liberation also. The focused mind is a byproduct of focused devotional service. It will happen for sure. But if we are just focusing on why I am not becoming focused, we'll never become focused. That is very important. So our endeavor should be to please Krishna, to serve Krishna, and then focused mind will come in due course of time. नहीं तो कोई नहीं तकब होगा.
Like I was just meditating on the like how these Srila Prabhupada disciples just Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So just a association of Srila Prabhupada, they completely surrender actually. But despite of having so much association and so much mercy of Guru and Krishna, we are not still surrender. In one sense, not like Srila Prabhupada disciples, in one sense. So I was thinking, what is that, or how they have received such level of surrender. So what is obstructing between that level of surrender to Guru?
No, it is nice to feel like that. If somebody feels, अरे हम तो अभी पक्का अच्छे से भक्ति कर रहे हैं मालूम, अभी तो सरेंडर हो ही गया है, मतलब कुछ गड़बड़ है सच. It is natural to feel like this. Everybody should feel like this, that our surrender is not like the surrender of our seniors and our gurus. At the same time, this thought should not make us depressed that I am not able to do this. This thought should make us more committed to the process. It should not take us away from the process. When we focus on the mercy of Prabhupada and mercy of Krishna, we'll become more committed to the process. But if we are focusing on why I am not able to do this, then we'll go away from the process. That is the difference between humility and inferiority complex. Humility means I am nothing and Krishna is great. And inferiority complex means I am so fallen that even Krishna cannot lift me. So that is the difference. Everybody should feel like this. I'm not able to practice bhakti properly, but no problem. I will definitely achieve this one day by the mercy of gurus. Etam sasthaya paratmanishta adhyasitam purvatame maharshibhi aham tarishyami duranta param tamo mukundangri nishevayeva. This is a sannyas mantra spoken by Gaudiya sannyasis. This is a prayer by Avanti Brahmana. He says, I have this faith. क्या faith है मुझे? Paratmanishta. I have this nishtha. I have faith in the Purvatamai Maharshi, in the previous acharyas. The path which they have traveled, if I am traveling that path, aham tarishyami duranta param. I'll also cross. That's the faith a devotee should have. So we are right in our thinking, but that thinking should make us more committed, more endeavor, more determination to practice. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
So now, after this, someone may ask, well, with what proof you worship Supreme Lord? वो है भी कि नहीं तुमको मालूम है क्या? This is the question which is asked in the next. So the next shloka answers that. आपको मतलब, how are you having such faith that he is there? So the living entity says, by inference I can understand he is there. With what proof do you worship the Supreme Lord? He says, by inference we can understand his presence. Which devata offers knowledge to a fool like me? अरे मुझे कौन बताओ, कौन कृपा करेगा? मैं इतना मूर्ख हूँ. Only Lord can show mercy to me. No, but no devata will show mercy to the fallen conditioned soul like me. Because he has no other reason. He must be inferred as there is no other reason for my knowledge. मुझे ये ज्ञान हो रहा है, मतलब इसका और कोई है ही नहीं तरीका. Only mercy of Lord. No devata can do this. ज्ञानम यदेतदधात् कथमासदेव.
ज्ञानं यदेतत्
ज्ञानम्
अभिधात्
त्रैकालिकं स्थिरचरेष्वनुवर्तितांशः.
त्रैकालिकं
तं जीव कर्म पदवी अनुवर्तमाना. तापत्रयोपशमनाय वयं भजेम.
No one other than the Supreme Person of Godhead as the localized Paramatma, a partial representation of the Lord, is directing all inanimate and animate objects. He is present in three phases of time: past, present, and future. Therefore, the conditioned soul is engaged in different activities by his direction in order to get free from the threefold miseries of this conditioned life. We have to surrender unto him only.
Katama Sadeva. Now the first line say Katama Sadeva. अरे who is that devata who will give knowledge to a person like me? बताओ, और कौन देगा मेरे? I am so fallen, so foolish. Who can give knowledge to me apart from Krishna? Traikalikam. He is present in all the phases. He was present in the past. He is present now. He will be in the future also. And tam jiva karma padavi anuvartamana. Conditioned soul, he is engaged in different activities by his direction. By his direction means कर्म पदवी मिलती है. कैसे कर्म पदवी मिलती है? According to anuvartamana. A living entity works according to the directions of the Supreme Lord. And how the Lord directs? According to the desires of the living entity. So it is not, one should not think, देखो ये तो Supreme Lord is doing everything, he is responsible. No. He is not responsible, he is reciprocal. We are responsible. Tapa trayopashamanaya vayam bhajema. I am suffering, I am wandering. Now, just to be free of this tapatraya, vayam bhajema, I worship that Supreme Lord. I must surrender to Him only. Nobody else will help me. Only Krishna will help me. Prabhupada writes, when a conditioned soul is seriously anxious to get out of the influence of material clutches, Supreme Lord, who is situated within us, Paramatma, gives him this knowledge, surrender unto me. So Lord is waiting for that surrender, that inclination. When a living entity is really frustrated and wants to get out, then Lord speaks. Lord is eagerly waiting for this. Maharavara hoite korile tomare udhar, Kripara samudra Krishna gambhira apar. Krishna is so very merciful. He is the ocean of mercy. He is working gravely to protect every living entity. Matta smriti jnana apohanam cha. He says, to what wants to be materially satisfied or wants to lord it over the material nature, Lord gives him the opportunity to forget his service. You want to forget me? Okay, I'll give you all the opportunity to forget me. You want to serve me? I'll give you all the remembrance. So that's how Lord is reciprocal. This knowledge cannot be imparted by anyone other than the Lord or his representative. That's why Lord Sri Chaitanya, he instructs. Anyone remembers which verse Prabhupada is paraphrasing here? Can somebody tell me? Huh? Living entities wandering life after life, and mercy of spiritual master and Krishna, one gets free. अरे बहुत famous verse है ना?
कौन है भाग्यवान जीव?
हाँ. Prabhupada writes that. कृपा के बिना नहीं होता है. So they are living entities saying, अरे और कौन कृपा करेगा मेरे पे? I am so foolish, so fallen. Only Krishna can do this. Nobody else will do this. Therefore, there is no possibility of one's being situated in his own position unless he is blessed by the Lord. Guru और कृष्ण के कृपा के बिना नहीं होता है. He is constantly working. Lord is constantly working. Bhagavatam says, nobody can even express the gratitude sufficiently towards the Lord for whatever he is doing for everyone. Even if somebody gets a life of Brahma, even if somebody is a great poet, still he cannot write what Lord is doing for every living entity from inside, from outside. From inside, he is giving directions as Chaitya Guru. From outside, he is directing in the form of spiritual master. Nevopayantyapachitiam kavayasthavesha brahma yushapi kritam ruddhamudam smarantaha antarvayasthanuvritam ashubham vidunvan acharya chaitya vapusha swagatim vinakti. Naiva upayanti apachitim. One cannot express the gratitude sufficiently. कवयस्तवेश कवि होगा ना तो भी नहीं बता पाएगा, ब्रह्मा की आयु होगी ना तभी नहीं बता पाएगा। क्या कर रहे हैं ये? अंतर्बहिः, from inside and from outside. He's cleaning us. He's purifying us. अंदर से चैत्य वपुषा परमात्मा, outside आचार्य. That's how Lord is so very wonderful. He is working whole day, 24 hours. And then after praying all these wonderful things, this bichara jiva devotee, वो बोलता है कब निकलेगा मैं यहाँ से? When will I come out of this, O my Lord? He says, O my Lord, my happiness and distress and attaining your lotus feet are all dependent on you. What can I ask for, since I am so young and childish? In this way he speaks. When will I come out? Actually, Chakravarti Thakur says, I am situated in this body of my mother and I am counting my months. 8 हो गए, 9 हो गए, 10 महीने हो गए, कब निकलूंगा मैं यहाँ से? When will I get out of this, O my Lord? He is tolerating. Translation.
Fallen into a pool of blood, stool, and urine within the abdomen of his mother, his own body scorched by the mother's gastric fire, embedded soul anxious to get out. Count his months and praise, O my Lord, when shall I, a wretched soul, be released from this confinement?
So he says, कब निकलूंगा? When shall I be released from this confinement? Prabhupada writes, the precarious condition of the living entity within the womb is described. One side there is the heat of gastric fire, other side urine, stool, blood discharge. After 7 months he is conscious. He feels terrible pain. He is waiting, he is counting his months. Prabhupada writes, the so-called civilized society does not take account of. So this child in the womb of the mother, he is really tormented and he is praying to the Lord, when will I get out of this condition? He is suffering. He is counting his days. So Prabhupada writes, the so-called civilized man does not even realize how the child is suffering, and on top of that, they try to kill the child by contraceptive methods. And then he says, the word Kripanadhi is significant in this verse. Dhi means intelligence, Kripana means miserly intelligence. So those who are Kripanadhi, they don't realize that child is already suffering and they try to kill the child. Conditional life is for persons who are of miserly intelligence and do not properly utilize their intelligence. In the human form of life, the intelligence is developed and one has to utilize that intelligence to get out of the cycle of birth and death. So basically, Prabhupada describes the difference between Kripana and Brahmana. Now, after this, he continues to pray. Yeah. Krishna Chakravarti Thakur writes something. He says, I have no intelligence. When will I get out of this place? Because the difficulties cannot be tolerated within the womb. I'll worship you outside. This is very interesting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also writes the entire prayer. Bhuliya tumhare samsare asiya pe nana vidya vyatha. Oh my Lord, I am suffering. Please take me out of this place. तुम्हारा चरणे आसिया चियामी बोली बो दुखे रे कथा. And Janani Jathare Chilama Japona Visham Bandhan Pashe. Such a terrible place this is, oh my Lord. बस एक बार प्रभु दिखा दिया मुझे, एक बार निकालो इधर से, बस क्या होगा मालूम है? Karibo bhajana tava. Bas, I will only worship you only. देखो ना भाविन हो जन्म पाइया करिबो भजन तवा बोलता है पक्का वर्शिप यू माय लॉर्ड एक बार निकाल दो उसे से सो इन द नेक्स्ट वर्स ये बेचारा डिवोटी बोल रहा है कब निकालेंगे मेरे को यहाँ से सो द लॉर्ड he reciprocates he says you have asked me when will I get out so are you suggesting that I'm merciless since I don't get you out right now so the Lord may say like that हाँ तुम बोल रहे हैं मेरे को निकालो मतलब आई एम सो मर्सीलेस आई एम कीपिंग यू इन दिस सिचुएशन सो विथ शेम fear biting his tongue putting himself in a humble position the jiva speaks I am situated in this room for 10 months now having received this situation of being your devotee rare even for devtas by mercy which can come from no one except you you are not merciless oh my lord. You have given me devotion. No devta can give devotion. Only you can give devotion through your devotee. So how can you be merciless? This position of being a devotee is rare even from Brahmaji. So in this consciousness, he is offering another prayer. Translation.
My dear Lord, by your costless mercy, by your costless mercy, I am
Yes, sir.
awakened to the consciousness, although I am only 10 months old. For this costless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands. Hare Krishna.
So he says, I'm so fortunate that you are showing mercy. I am feeling so very grateful. And only thing I can do is pray with my folded hands. That's it. Prabhupada also writes, he says, the Lord is always seeking the opportunity to reclaim the fallen souls. We should always feel very obliged. Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he would always say, gratitude is not a part of devotion. Gratitude, to be grateful is devotion. I should be obliged for whatever he has received, she has received. The Lord is always anxious to bring us into happy condition of eternal life. There is no sufficient means to repay. So what we can do? Simply feel gratitude and pray with folded hands. This prayer of the child in the womb may be questioned by atheistic people. Somebody may say, well, how can a child pray in the womb? But by the mercy of the Lord, everything is possible. And anyone who is not grateful, he is a great fool. Bhagavatam describes, Yairi Bhagavato Gatiratmavada Ekantato Nigamabhi Pratipaditana Tushyantadabra Karuno Swakritena Nityam Ko Nama Tatvati Karoti Vinoda Patram. Who will not show gratitude to for whatever you have done to all of the devotees, all the living entities, O my Lord? Adabra Karuna, you are all magnanimous. Anyone who does not repay or who does not express gratitude, you know what is he doing? He is Vinod Patra. He is a joker. Another example, Vina Udipatra. Just like we take water of Ganga in the hands and then offer to Ganga only. So if this verse says, what we can do? All our intelligence, all our capability is coming from you only. So we are offering it back to you. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll continue next time from verse number 19. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
Last Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
God bless. Hare Krishna.